Now, at least my therapist is showing up. Whereas with Abby's, I mean, she's dealing with ghosting from a therapist.
Yeah, I don't have like a lot of romantic relationship trauma, but I do have therapist trauma. And I kind of joke that she ghosted me. The way that our relationship came to an end is I would be on these Zoom calls and she'd be like, I'll reach out to you to set up something. And then she never would. And I'd be like, hey girl, I still have trauma. And she'd be like, oh yeah, let's address that next week. So it kind of just got to the point where I was like, I think I'm ready to move on from this therapist relationship. And also my life was leveling out to where I was going to therapy and I was kind of sitting there going, well, I don't have things to talk about. Everything's going pretty great, which is not like a fun thing to do when you're supposed to be tackling all your problems essentially and all your trauma. And I was kind of in a place where I didn't really feel like I had much to talk about. So it was sort of like a natural ending. So I took a step back from therapy and life was pretty great. I didn't really think too much about going back because there was really no reason to. And I also felt like with that specific therapist, I knew that the online therapy that she was doing was like her side hustle. Her day job was dealing with incarcerated individuals and counseling them. And it felt a lot like dating in the sense that like I knew it's sort of like when you're dating somebody and you know they're dating other people and you know those people are like out of your league and like they're dating a model. Like that's how I felt. Like I felt like my trauma wasn't good enough. Yep. You know what I mean? I'm like, you're dealing with people who are in prison and here I am complaining about my childhood wounds from middle class suburbia. It just doesn't feel, I felt like
it wasn't a good match.
It wasn't a good, not that it wasn't a good, she's so great. I'm not here to like slander her name. Not that I've ever said her name, but.
Well, if you were committed to your therapy, then you would carjack and then go back to her later.
I'm sensing a pattern because my therapist who had ghosted me or stood me up, I was also the side piece.
Really?
It was like they're part of these clinics to fund their life, but she did so much pro bono work, especially with youth, like younger people who had been arrested and testifying on their behalf in court. So yes, me like crying over like my relationship or whatever was nothing when she had just been on the stand to a 13-year-old who participated in a carjacking where she's defending him because of his home life. So yes, I'm starting to see a pattern here.
That's a really good piece of advice when you're looking for a therapist to find out really what their focus is before you sign on.
Yeah, I need someone with yappy blonde girl problems, like someone who went to the University of Privilege and mentally stable. So I decided to go back to therapy because the universe honestly placed this perfect opportunity in my way. So I do a podcast on the side where I have a lot of mental health professionals come on. Amy from New Perspectives in Atlanta is one that comes on pretty frequently. And I have a great relationship with her. I really like her. And she said, you know, I come on and I do all this stuff for, you know, your podcast, but I would love to do like an actual personal session with you if you're down. And I said, you know what? I actually have a lot of stuff I would like to talk about. Like I have 6 months of things that I've pent up that would be really nice to just vent to somebody other than my mom for an hour. And I was a little bit nervous about going back because I'm somebody who does push down my emotions because when they come out, I have a very hard time returning back to like ground zero. So I'm like, I know once I go back to therapy, my emotions are going to come up and then I'm going to have a very hard time like pushing them back down again. And I don't like to be in that position because I'm a control freak. I like to be in control. And if I'm not in control of my emotions, I can't do my work. And if I can't do my work, then I feel lazy. And then it's just like this spiral of just my life going out of control. So I'm like, I know I'm going to need like a second therapy session for the one that I'm going to yesterday. So I logged on yesterday. Yeah, I really shouldn't have waited 6 months to go back to therapy. I'm realizing that now. But I went yesterday and it was really great. And she spent so much time with me, just letting me just like word vomit everything that I had been dealing with for the last like 3 months or so. And it was so nice that I'm like, why did I not go back to this? Because while I don't know if it's going to change the trajectory of the decisions that I'm going to be making in the next couple of weeks, it was nice to explore what that could look like and reaffirm why I've made the decisions from the past couple months of some difficult things I've dealt with in my personal life. And I was like, wow, it's almost like therapy really works. And it's really nice when your therapist wants to see you. So that's where I'm at now.
You didn't get ghosted.
Yay, that's a plus.
She likes me.
In just speaking to your like, maybe I should have gone earlier, I have never met anybody that has said I should have waited longer to go see my therapist. So if you're listening and you're like, man, maybe I should do this today, absolutely do it today. You will not regret regret going to therapy early. You already know you need it. So you might as well, you could push it off a day, you could push it off a week, you could push it off a month or a year, but you're going to end up in that office.
Exactly. And it definitely feels like an emotional burden has been lifted up and then put back down on me again. So therapy's next week again.
The Bert Show.